Praise be Jesus and Mary.
Now and forever.
In memory of the 150th anniversary of Pope Pius IX's declaration of St. Joseph as patron of the Universal Church, Pope Francis last year on December 8th, 2020, inaugurated the year of St. Joseph, which extends to December 8th of this year. His apostolic letter, Patris Corde, is a reflection on the fatherly and loving heart of the virginal father of Jesus. It's actually a beautiful reflection that the Holy Father gives in that letter, and I think it's also especially helpful for those who maybe didn't have the best of fathers growing up as well. It talks about how St. Joseph had all the best qualities of a true father. I do remember telling people that Pope Francis admittedly isn't a theologian. He himself has said as much before. But he is very paternal, and he really does have a heart for people. And my suspicion is that the apostolic letter, Patris Corde, which is Latin for the heart of the Father, or a heart of a father, my suspicion is that it reflects as much his heart as it does that of St. Joseph. So if you read Patris Corde, if you're able to read it with an open mind and an open heart, I think you'll see the good side of the Holy Father. And as we say, typically people like to be photographed from their good side, right? So we like to see people from their good sides. St. Joseph was the head of the divine household, and he ruled that household as God would have all households ruled. He ruled it with a servant's heart, not with a master's mindset, or not necessarily with a manager's efficiency, but with a servant's heart. Our Lord said to his disciples very famously, he said, "The greatest among you will be your master." Right, Matthew 23, verse 11. That's actually not what he said. He said, "The greatest among you will be your servant, not your master." And so it's easy to understand why St. Joseph is the greatest saint in heaven after Our Lady, because he spent his life serving the two most important people who ever graced the face of the earth. His entire adult life revolved around Jesus and Mary. They were literally the center of his world and of his activity. At the same time, St. Joseph endured many sufferings, but it was easy for him to become a great saint. One, because of the graces that he received, but two, also because he always had the example of the Son of God and the Mother of God right before his eyes, day and night. He couldn't forget about God, even if he tried. Couldn't do it. He actually woke up every morning next to him. He ate with him, and he worked with him every day. And the humility and the delicate love of the Son of God, along with the gentleness and the goodness of the Mother of God, never failed to astound St. Joseph. He was always enamored and astounded by these examples. His name also means, in Hebrew, his name means, "May the Lord add," or "He shall add." So every day the Lord added grace and admiration and wonder into the heart of the head of the household at Nazareth. St. Joseph guided his family, but he didn't lord it over them. And he learned from them as they learned from him. He was a craftsman or a carpenter by trade, and yet we can say it really was Jesus and Mary who molded and fashioned him with their words, with their understanding, with their examples, and with their constant loving presence. And the love that St. Joseph had for Jesus and Mary was pure and was chaste and was life-giving. It wasn't possessive or carnal or self-seeking. He loved them intensely and with a great freedom of heart at the same time. And on that note, we'll close with a brief reflection on marriage, which might be helpful for some of us. In marriage, it's said that opposites attract, and in many cases, that's probably true. Opposites attract, but similarities bond. So what's the recipe for a successful marriage? The recipe is that there needs to be true unity and a true bonding between the spouses. The two shall become one, as our Lord said in the Gospel, Matthew 19, verse 5. And bonding isn't just physical. That's part of it, but there also needs to be emotional and spiritual bonding as well. In the marriage between St. Joseph and Our Lady, there actually was no physical sexual bonding, and yet there was an emotional and a spiritual intimacy and a unity between the two of them that really would have been the envy of all the world. They were like two souls with one heart. This is something which in so many clumsy ways and clumsy words we try to explain to couples who are either unfaithful or who practice contraception or who don't perform the marital act in a way that's pleasing to God. We try to explain to them that when there's a problem with the physical intimacy in any of these aspects or other aspects, it's helpful to look at the couple's spiritual and emotional intimacy and see how truly united they are in those areas. A lot of times you're going to find deficiency there. If all the focus or a big part of the focus is on the physical intimacy, then the two are not one as God intends them to be. And there will be problems, serious problems. But on the other hand, when there is true emotional and spiritual intimacy, meaning when both husband and wife are resolved to put the Lord first in their relationship and they pray together every day, when they give and receive unconditional love and acceptance between the two of them, when they're quick to forgive each other, when there's freedom to be open and vulnerable, when there's humility, when there's a candid sharing of the heart and listening and exchanges of affection and appreciation and encouragement, and when problems are addressed in mature and respectful ways. In short, when each spouse tries to serve the other as Christ serves his bride, the church, that's when whatever sacrifices that need to be made on the physical level, that's when they aren't so insurmountable. God will even make physical self-denial when necessary. He'll even make that. He'll turn it into a blessing and into an opportunity to grow closer to him and to grow closer to the spouse on those deeper levels. Above all, the general principle needs to be that physical pleasure should never be prioritized over spiritual blessing. Okay, spiritual blessing has to be first, not physical pleasure. In a marriage or in any relationship, that's the case. With contraception, with infidelity, with the incompletion of the marital act in a natural way, unfortunately, physical pleasure is placed first and spiritual blessing is placed last. And that needs to change. To truly want the best for yourself and also for your spouse is to want to grow in maturity, to want to grow in self-giving, and to also live in God's grace, and also to get to heaven, obviously. And so we have to, at times, deny ourselves, meaning that we have to say no to mortal sin so that we can demonstrate a fidelity and a love for the other person that's more than just pleasure-seeking. So that means that the spiritual and emotional intimacy needs to be prioritized if we want to have a truly beautiful marriage. St. Joseph is a model for us in so many ways, but he's also a model for how love in a marriage can be chaste and very profound and very rewarding at the same time. And lastly, we'll just say a note of encouragement for those in difficult marriages, that when the two don't become one as God intended because of the unwillingness of the other spouse, well, the one can still become a saint, right? So if the two can't become one, the one can still become a saint. And St. Joseph will help you with that. So today, let's ask him. Let's also ask Our Lady to intercede for all of us, but especially to intercede for the conversion of many couples who aren't living their marriage vows according to God's plan and according to God's heart. Praise be Jesus and Mary.
Now and forever.